A very good morning, dear students. I am Ms. Sophia Sheikh, your science teacher, and here we meet again for a new session. So let us begin the session. Children, before beginning with the session, I want you to ask the question: what are the basic needs of man? The most primary or the fundamental basic need of man is air, water, and light. Air, water, and food. Correct. So, today we will be discussing these two essential, fundamental, basic requirements of human beings which help them to survive and live. Children, can you imagine? Just try an activity. Let us hold our breath for 30 seconds from now. Come on, your time starts now. So set a timer and ask your parent to just, okay, you can ask your sibling or your mother to just count till 30. 1 to 30, and that will be 30 seconds. Can you hold your breath more than that? Okay, some people can have a great strength and they can hold it for a minute or a two, but not after that. Why? Because air is the most essential for our survival. So in this chapter we will be learning the air, what is air made up of, the composition, the importance, the characteristics, similarly of water, what is made up of, how it is purified, how do you get it in your house, everything about air and water. So it is a very interesting lesson. Let's get started. So children, we have air. As air is a natural resource, there is an envelope of air surrounding the earth. We use this air for breathing, right? It is the oxygen present in the air is used for the life process of we human beings, that is breathing, and the air that is present surrounding the earth is the atmosphere. So this atmosphere is made up of many layers. So this layer of air is called atmosphere, and it is a mixture of gases. The atmosphere is thicker and heavier near the ground, and it gets thinner and lighter further away till it comes to an end. After the atmosphere ends, so it is nearly, the space begins. So it is nearly the 15 kilometer from the earth, near to the earth is the atmosphere. After that, the whole thing present is a space. So that's why as you go up and up on the mountain, you feel the air is less there and you have difficulty in breathing over there. So let us discuss the layers of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is divided into 5 layers. Specifically, the names are troposphere. The first one is the troposphere, and it is closest to the earth, and it consists of gases that we breathe in. All the weather changes occur in this layer. It is present at the distance of 15 km from the earth's surface. So this is the troposphere. All the weather, climatic changes, everything happens here. The seasons that we experience also happens here. The next layer above the troposphere is the stratosphere. In troposphere, the above layer is stratosphere. After that, the jet aircraft, all the aeroplanes, they fly in this layer because there is no disturbance of weather here. It contains the ozone layer. Ozone layer is present in this stratosphere, and it ranges from 35 kilometers. Ozone layer, what is the work of ozone layer? It protects life and oxygen, the breathing for the survival of human beings and other living organisms. Oxygen is required. Plants require it for the purpose of photosynthesis. So it protects life and helps in the sustenance of life. What is the process of photosynthesis? Where the plants absorb the carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere in the presence of sunlight. With the help of the carbon dioxide gas, they make the food, and this process is called photosynthesis. So the oxygen is present in the stratosphere, in the ozone layer present in the stratosphere. So the ozone layer helps in the production of food in plants, and which in turn we consume plants, the animals, other herbivores and all, they consume plant, and they will help, it helps them to survive. So the composition of air is like, air is a mixture of various gases as I told you earlier. Atmosphere consists of about 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen and less than 1% of argon and carbon dioxide, and the other gases too. Nitrogen is the important plant nutrient. Nitrogen neither burns nor supports burning. Its presence in air helps reduce the rate of burning as caused by oxygen. But oxygen is needed by living things to breathe. Oxygen is also needed for burning. Carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere is used by plants to prepare food. Now let us see the properties of air. What are the properties of air? Children, air is needed for breathing, right? Plants need air to make food. As I told you earlier, all living organisms need air to survive. So, can you see this air? No, this air is not visible. Air is colorless, tasteless and odorless. We cannot see air. It has no color. Pure air is also without any taste or smell. Even if it is polluted, you can see the smoke but not the air. So, let us assume a airman. Air is present all around us. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. The fan you on makes you feel it on your skin. You can sense it by your skin. So, as I told you earlier, the composition of air is 78% oxygen and 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen with 1% of argon and other gases. So, we all know this was the composition of air. Now, we will see the properties of air. Now, just consider this experiment. Balance the two balloons. Take a stick and two balloons, blow air into two balloons and tie it on the two sides of a stick, and at the middle of the stick tie a thread and hold it like a balance, weighing balance you have. Similarly like that. What you will see is if you fill the balloon with the same, blow the balloon of the same size, it will be of same size, so it will occupy the weight of the air will be both same. So, the second property is air occupies space. Just prick the other one. This activity is actually about air has weight. So, when you have tied this, you have to prick one balloon. What will happen? The side with inflated balloon will go down. As the balloon will burst, what will happen? The blown one, the one which we have not pricked, that side will go down. Why? This is because air has weight. In both the cases, when the balloon was tied, both the balloons had some of the air in between. So, both the balloons had air. When you burst it, the first one, the air escaped. So, just assume this air as we are imagining, okay, it is a airman. So, when you just pricked it, the airman got blown away. Whatever the air was in the first balloon, it all got blown away. Why? Because you just made a hole and let the air escape, while the other balloon still had air. So, this proves, and the side got down there. So, this proves that air has weight. The property of air has weight. So, this is proved by this activity. So, we will be doing similarly small activities to prove a property of the air. So, this was about air has weight. We will now move further to show another property. Now, let us do this activity. You have to hold the glass, take a water in a big bowl or bucket. Take your mug. While bathing, you can do this. Bucket, you have to take the water in your bucket, hold the mug or the glass upside down, so as the air, whatever it is touching, it will be like a jam container. You will apply pressure. So, you have to just take the mug and turn it upside down on the bucket. So, keep it on the surface of water such that as you can see here in the picture, it should look like this. So, you have hold the glass, you have bucket, you have mug or a glass, whatever you have taken, you have hold the glass, and for example, we have taken a vessel and a glass. So, we have turned it upside down. You have to hold the glass upside down and slightly tilt the glass. What will happen? You have to tilt the glass so that the water, whatever is there, starts going in. What you will see is, you will see the air bubbles, and the voice will come like of bubbling voice, right? The bubbling voice will come. This is the experiment that you have to do. You note your observations. See exactly in this video what is happening. You keep the glass, or when you will do this with the help of transparent glass, it will be easy for your observation. So, but whatever you can take, even take a mug to do this, and it is fun, children. So we are imagining air as we cannot see it. We are just imagining it. For example, it's a man or some creature, like as you can see here in this. We have caught air. The molecule of air is just, we have caught the molecule of air by, and as soon as you tilt it, the air escapes through the hole and the water goes in. This shows that first, why was it not going down? As air had space. As soon as you tilted it, the bubbles got in and the water occupied the space which air was occupying. So this is the property that shows, the another property of air that shows airman can be trapped means what? Air occupies space. That means you can trap air in a container. Even though you can't see it, the air will be trapped, like for example in a balloon or here, as we did in this activity. This proves that air occupies space. Now let us see the another example, another property of air, that is more about airmen we will learn. This property is showing that air helps in burning. The burning property of air, the oxygen present in the air, that will help you in the burning process. So you have to take a candle. For this you will require a candle. You can do this under a supervision of your mother or elder brother or father. You have to take 2 candles, light it, and cover a candle with a glass, transparent glass. Glass will do, okay, so that you can observe. If you take a steel glass, what will happen? You will not be able to see it, okay. So you have to light 2 candles of the same size, take a glass and put that glass on the lighted candle. The covered candle, you have to cover that candle. What will happen? The covered candle is put off. Now why does this happen? So here is the answer to your question. So air is, as I told you, air is present everywhere. Air is helping the candle to burn, right? Air has got oxygen which supports burning. But as soon as what we did was, we took a glass and we covered the candle. So what would have happened exactly? Whatever the air is present around everything, as soon as you close the lid, put the glass on the candle, the air could not go inside that, and whatever inside that glass to burn that candle, to help, the oxygen was not available, so the candle quickly gets off. So this is what happens there exactly. And the other candle, why it kept burning? Because air was still present there and it was supporting, whereas the other candle where we covered it, air was not able to reach it, so the oxygen molecules were not able to reach there, so the candle was the flame of the candle was put off, okay. So this property shows that air supports burning, or air is necessary for burning. So the oxygen present in the air helps in burning. Oxygen is necessary for burning. This is the property of air. The oxygen present in the air will help for burning. Now we have another basic requirement, or the fundamental basic need of humans, that is water. We cannot live without water, children. We must drink water because our body needs water to carry out most of the life processes like digestion, circulation, excretion, etc. So this water is very precious and a blessing of the Almighty. So we will discuss now about water. As you all know, the 3 forms of water present in the environment are the liquid form. The first state of matter. We have discussed this in the state of matter, but while discussing about water, there are 3 forms of water animals and plants need to live. The first one is liquid form. The various animals and plants need water to live. Water is used for many purposes. As you already know, it is used, different liquid water is used for drinking, and as I told you. So there were the 3 forms of water. We have solid, liquid and gas. We preserve meat, fish and vegetables in transportation. Why? How do we do that? We use for sending in the transportation process, we move these items from here to there. So the gaseous form of water is, that was ice, which was used in, that was the solid form. Liquid, after that solid, now we have gaseous form of water. Water vapor mixes with the air and goes up and forms cloud. So this water vapor is the gaseous form of water. We get rain from the clouds. So this water comes back to us in the form of liquid. So the liquid form of water which we drink and we use for different purposes, is present in the form liquid form, such as cooking. Then we use water for washing clothes, and we also use water for cleaning, for various cleaning purposes, putting out fire. All this we do with the help of water, which is in the form of liquid, the liquid form of water, right? Now we will see the solid form of water. The solid form of water is ice. Ice is the solid form of water that we refrigerate. We keep water, we fill the water in an ice tray and keep it in the freezer or a fridge. So the ice freezes due to cold temperature. The liquid form solidifies to take a solid form. Take out the ice tray after a few hours. You can do this activity, you do it every day in your house, we just don't notice it. So you can see that the water has changed into solid cubes when you freeze the water. So what is happening exactly? The water is turning from liquid to solid form. The gaseous form of water is present in the steam or the vapor form. Steam is the gaseous form of water. The steam that we get after boiling water or cooking food, when we put the lid, that time while heating, water changes to water vapor. So while boiling, it will change the state. So when water changes into steam or water, we say it has evaporated, right? Evaporation tells us and shows the water is in the form of gaseous form. We get water from many sources, like in our house we get water from different sources. We get water from rain. First of all, rain is a natural resource of water. Then other than rain, we have other natural resources like rivers and lakes. We have rivers and lakes which are given by the gift of nature. Then we have various streams for it. The streams of water, we get water from their streams. Then we have ponds too. Ponds are also present naturally. Then we have hand pumps, taps. In the rural area, we have hand pumps. Then we have wells and tanks. So drinking water comes to our house. How does it come from? We get water from various resources, as we have discussed it previously. But where does this drinking water come from? The water that is available from different resources or the sources comes to us in many forms, but it may not be safe for drinking, right? We can't drink any polluted water or contaminated water. We may get sick or diseased, may infect us. So the water should be purified for drinking purposes. So how is this water purified? In big cities, the tap water that comes to our homes, like we live in a city, right? So in our cities, we get water from purified, which is purified and safe for drinking, while in rural areas they have hand pumps, right, the bore wells. So the water purifying process is shown in short here. Later we will be discussing it in deeply. So this is just a glance of it, how the water is, see, the reaching from river to pump, then it is filtered and finally it is reaching the home. We use for water for various purposes like drinking. We use water in many ways. there is no need to discuss it again and again, but we use water to drink, to bath, to cook, to put out fire, yes or no? So we use water to drink, to bath, to cook, to put out fire. All these are daily life activities. You can't even imagine a day without water. Yes, children, can you live without bathing, without drinking food or cooking food? How will your mother cook food when there is no water? How will we survive if there is no water left on the earth? So also the plants, we use it for their growth. All water is not clean. We cannot drink anything that is present naturally nowadays. How our rivers are contaminated due to water pollution. We all know the state of our rivers today. In this world, we can't drink the open stream water or anything, but we cannot drink all kinds of water that is available. So we need to take water from lakes, rivers, and all this water may have germs. So this can we consume directly this contaminated water? No. So therefore there is the need to purify water. We should clean water before use. We can clean water by using water filters or purifiers. We have ROs and purifiers at home, right? And the simplest way is to drink boiled water. Boiling water will kill germs and it is safe to drink. Now we will see the water purification process. What is exactly happening? So the water collected from open sources like rivers and lakes is not safe for drinking. So purification of water in public water supply systems, we will see it. It depends on where you live, but chances are behind that it depends upon the cities that we live. So let us study about our water treatment plant. Children, various water plants up in our towns and cities. This water is always cleared by water works department. So the potable treatment is done and wastewater treatment is also done. The water treatment is of two types, C, potable treatment and wastewater treatment, as I told you, and it involves different steps for that water that reaches us to be purified. So let us now discuss one by one the processes that are involved. How exactly does one treatment plant take dirty river water or well water and turn it into water that is safe to drink? So here is the answer for your question. How is it purified? What are the steps taken to kill the germs and everything? We will be discussing it now in detail. So the process involves coagulation, sedimentation, filtration and chlorination. Let us see one by one all these processes. The first one is coagulation. Alum and some other chemicals are added to the water to attract dirt particles and form clumps. This process is called loading. So loading is done, first of all, the various water sources that you see we have discussed earlier, the water is collected from there. So whatever the dirt is present in that, like stones, sticks, etc., sometimes the sand particles, the dirt, the garbage, the mud, sticks, whatever is present, the trash that we throw, and the industrial waste also sometimes is there. So all that is collected, it is purified and we have the safe water. The first is coagulation. The coagulants. What are coagulants? Whatever the particles, the unnecessary, whatever it is, first of all that is mixed. Okay, first of all, to remove it, they are rapidly mixed with each other. So the sand, mud, etc., whatever is present, and the coagulants are removed by the process of loading. Alum and some other chemicals are added to the water to attract dirt particles and form clumps. This is the loading process. So alum will be added to remove the coagulants. Then comes another process. After coagulation, we move on to the further process, that is sedimentation. Flocculation is also the same. The flocculation basins are the ones which avoid the bigger particles or like plastic waste or whatever it is. They don't allow the trash to come along with that water. So in that collection tank or whatever the water resource directly coming from the river is coagulated or flocculated through the basins. The flocculation basins are like they trap the bigger particles and allow the water to flow in, and the slow mixing is taken place, and whatever the sediment, the water is passed for the further process, that is sedimentation. Water is collected in large tanks and left undisturbed. The heavier insoluble impurities settle down at the bottom of the tank, and they settle down slowly. They, whatever the impurities are left after coagulation are left to settle down. Children, you can perform an activity and see, just take a glass of water, mix mud with it and leave it for a hour, 1 hour or 2 hours. You will see that all the mud that you have mixed it, the sludge, it is also called as sludge, or the garbage, whatever is present or thrown in the river bodies, it is very bad, causes water pollution, etc. Whatever is that is accumulated at the base of the bottom of the tank. So this impurities or dirty things will be removed obviously through another opening, and the pure or the clear water is floated above. As the impurities settle down, the dissolved air flotation is sometimes practiced. This is just for your extra information. You just have to remember sedimentation, but let me tell you what is dissolved air flotation. Here what happens is, through the help of vacuum, as you have seen in vacuum cleaner, whatever the surface dirt or dirtiness or the garbage is present, oxygen or some through the flotation process, like the light, then depending on the density of the garbage or the mud particles are with the help of air, it is pressurized from, as you see in the fish tanks, the oxygen comes from the downside, it is provided, and the dirt is removed from the top layers. So this will lead, this is another process used, that is dissolved air flotation. It is a part of sedimentation process only. You can see, just in sedimentation it settles down, in air flotation it floats above. Both the terms are both the processes are almost the same. So engineers and the architects, they build the water tanks in such a way that they can remove it, purify. They help in the process of, like this, the public water system is made so that easily you can get pure water to drink at our homes that we get, and whatever purposes we use in. So you see, as you can see here in the pictures, large tanks are there, and water tanks, and in large areas, just to collect water from the rivers, streams, rainwater, and they are just left for undisturbed for hours and hours and days. After that sedimentation process, we have filtration. What is filtration? You have the removal of dirt. The clear water obtained above after sedimentation is filtered. The water passes through filters made up of sand, gravel and charcoal to remove small floating particles. So removing, filtering, as you see, have you seen, but the most common example of filter is the tea that we prepared. The tea leaves, we filter it in a or the we have removed it separately and we drink the tea. So mostly in water tankers they use sand filters for filtering water and obtaining the clean water. So whatever the dirt is present, it is removed with the help of sand. So the sand layers are present in like this. We have fine sand, we have medium sand, then we have coarse sand, and water is passed through this. So whatever the dirt, mud particles will be present, and this sand is only used for treatment purposes. so it will be purified. Water is passed through it, and whatever the sand is, sometimes this process it's optional and depends upon how the treatment plant or the industry works on. The second step, that is you can use is, there are layers present of sand, so it is done twice, and it is the second step is you can change the layers, like you can keep the fine sand at the last level and the coarse sand at the top level. So it depends on the plants and water supply type of treatment. Okay, so this filtration process is just removing the mud and soil particles, and finally water has reached a level with least the impurities have decreased to the minimum level in the filtration step. So the efficiency is seen in this filtration, how you can just assure the efficiency of filtered water, how much pure it is. So you have turbidity units. This is just for extra information. We have various turbidity units too, which they check the filtered water, they certify it, like whether it should be passed further or it should remain, or the filtration should be done again and again. So if there are still some soil particles or the water is still turbid, turbidity is like impurity present in water. Sometimes they use activated carbon too for this process. They put, what is activated carbon? It is the carbon charcoal that absorbs all the dirt and impurities. The activated carbon, what is the work of it? The tiny pores present in it will absorb the impurity or the mud particles, whatever the soil particles are present in that, they will absorb it, and this will assure. This is not used, not necessary, as I told you, it depends on the water plant and all.